We had 3 kids in less than 2 years. It was quite an intense environment. And leaving a career that I had done for 17 years, that I loved, that was a true part of my identity, I was feeling quite lost after making that decision.
What was the moment you realized the need for a space like this?
So I went to bed one night and I woke up with this vision, and it was so clear. And most of all, I felt the relief that users would have from having a space like this. It's completely anonymous, no usernames, no one's ever going to know it's you, and no likes or comments. So that's the refreshing take here.
How does Air Out play into maintaining that ethics, so to speak, as opposed to creating extremism?
We do have language filters in place. It's not perfect, but it is there, designed to keep people safe. It's like Twitter and X and Reddit had a baby, if you will. It's short and to the point, but it's anonymous, but also that there's no feedback. So it's different in that sense.
My guest today is Courtney Stanfield, a veteran Canadian TV broadcaster. She's a mom of 3 and mental wellness visionary. She's the founder of the anonymous chat app, Air Out. Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global issues and how we can help. My guest today is Courtney Stanfield, a veteran Canadian TV broadcaster. So she's judging me broadcasting right now and saying this is awful amateur work. She's a mom of 3, actually, 4 with her dog, and mental wellness visionary. She's the founder of the anonymous chat app, Air Out, an instant relief space with no usernames, no comments, and a 100-character limit designed so people can vent, confess, brag, or just be heard without judgment, without debate, without what happens everywhere else on social media, essentially. What began as a dream led to midnight emails to app developers. I've been there. And today, the platform supports parents, professionals, daters, and more through one simple rule. And that rule is you can read others' posts, but you can't interact. Courtney believes that what we do and what we don't say, we store in our bodies. Guilt, shame, emotion. And that's where Air Out comes into play. It gives a safe outlet for all of these without, the trauma of the storage and all the other stuff. So we're going to get into all of that conversation with Courtney. Hello, Courtney, and welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues.
Hello. Thank you. Quite the intro. Very excited to be here and chat about a topic near and dear to my heart.
Perfect. Let me start here. You've had a long career as a broadcaster, and you're a mother of 3, so it's not easy. I mean, three's a full-time job kind of thing. So the idea of Air Out comes from some professional insight, some personal challenge. What I want to know is what was the moment you realized the need for a space like this, and how do you feel your life had kind of developed you, even without your knowledge at some parts or points, to really be able to shape the app's concept and bring it to where it is today?
So I'll take you back to when this all started, which was early 2024. I had just left my full-time TV job to be home with my 3 little kids because, as you said, it is very much a full-time job. We had 3 kids in less than 2 years. So we jumped in fast. And so it was quite an intense environment. And leaving a career that I had done for 17 years, that I loved, that was a true part of my identity, I was feeling quite lost after making that decision. It wasn't the the wrong decision, don't regret it, but it was challenging to have that adjustment to at-home life. And I found myself, like many parents with young kids do, getting really overwhelmed at times, not enjoying the process, wishing that maybe things could be different. And I thought, if I feel this way, other people have to feel this way. But these are the types of things we're not willing to express. We're not going to go on public social media with our face and our name and be really honest about the challenges of what we're thinking and feeling. Maybe one day it's, I wish I never became a mother. Something like that is really difficult to communicate to someone in your life. And so you store that inside, and that doesn't feel good to carry around. It starts to blur everything you look at. It starts to make you feel worse. You start to compare yourself, and you start to feel less about yourself, and you enjoy your experience less. When in reality, it's just a tough moment. You're overstimulated. You're overwhelmed. All of these feelings that young parents experience. And so I had these thoughts, and I was like, people are not being honest about what they're going through whatsoever. They say they are, but they're not. And I said, there has to be a place where we can just say it. I know there's Reddit. Reddit exists, which is amazing, which is anonymous, but it's also really long. There's paragraphs of writing. There's endless comments. It creates kind of a hate debate. Doesn't matter what you say, someone's going to argue with you. There's Twitter that's shortened to the point, but again, it's connected to your name. It's connected to your identity. And so I went to bed one night, and I woke up with this vision, and it was so clear. I saw Air Out. I saw what it would look like. I saw how simplistic it is. It's very beginning of the internet era. Super minimalist. And most of all, I felt the relief that users would have from having a space like this. And so I just saw people offloading all of these things they're carrying around, whether they're true or not. We'll get into that, but this thought in the moment and being able to say it. So it's completely anonymous, no usernames, no one's ever going to know it's you, and no likes or comments. So that's the refreshing take here, is so that you can't engage with people on social media and often leave it feeling better. If you post something on there, you better be sure you're going to get plenty of comments. A lot of them likely to make you feel worse. This is a place where we're working from the inside out, not the outside in. So we're not looking for that external validation anymore. We just need to say it because we need to say it because it's bursting inside of us, and we just need to get the words out. Again, whether it's true or not, whether it's, I think I married the wrong person, I'm not attracted to my partner, I feel like a failure, I feel like a loser, whatever it is. So now we have this void, this empty space where we can just offload all that stuff, so you stop carrying around the emotional weight of it. Because once you meet it and you say it, you're free from it. And there's so much power in just being able to say what we're experiencing in an elevated state.
You're going to learn something new about me right now. I often go off on tangents because I listen to people speak, and it sparks things within me. You mentioned so many negative things that people will want to offload anonymously because the response, if not anonymous, is going to be hurtful generally. And why and how and the psychology. I don't want to get into that, but I want to get into this. You're right. If I had something positive to share, or something, a milestone, an achievement, anything that's positive, I just had a child, or I made my first million, or whatever it is, or I, scored a goal. All of those are something I want to attach to my name. And I want to do it with my profile, and I want to have it on my Instagram, because those are all showcases of my achievements. But when it comes down to all the other half of my life, I don't know, taking those same examples, I missed an easy goal. My child was stillborn, or all of those, right? I don't want to share that online possibly, or I don't want to share it because of the negative connotations that kind of come out. And what you're doing is you're kind of creating a space for people to be able to share that regardless, but share it in a way that it still comes out of you, but it doesn't go into the world in that way that they respond to it in the way you want people to respond to your achievements, because there is no good response to your failures when you come out and share it, unless it's your mother or somebody really close to you that can hug you and embrace you and say it's okay and work through it with you, because the world is not like that on social media. So am I right in understanding the app now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even have to be as big as that. We're talking everyday moments, every little annoyance. You know, you're driving to work and you get cut off. That might not seem like a big deal, but internally you might be processing that like, no one sees me. No one respects me. I hate my job. How did I end up here? And you go down this spiral. You go to work. Someone takes the last coffee pod. Again, no one appreciates me. We all have these thoughts and feelings that pop up throughout our day. And it's very much like carrying physical objects. If I gave you something to carry and I said, this represents, you know, you're a loser. This one represents you're a failure. This one represents you're a bad parent. How many of those could you hold until you just throw them down and freak out and snap? And it's the same thing emotionally. We cannot carry around all of these thoughts. If we don't express them and send them out, have that release, they will stay inside of us and they will grow and they'll become bigger and heavier. And so if we are able to just process what we're going through without worrying about how it's going to be perceived, without worrying that people are going to connect us with this thought or this idea, it's this detachment. So we are all human. We have human brains. We have thoughts. We are not our thoughts, though. They are separate to us. And when we can learn to observe them and just appreciate them for what they are and send them into a space like air out or a journal, if you will, a lot of people love writing. It's so powerful. This is like quick and easy, effective journaling on the go because you just need to get it out of your system. And it's not our job with self-expression to determine if we are valid or not in that experience. It doesn't have to be true 10 minutes from now, but right now you are overwhelmed, you're upset, you're frustrated, whatever happened. Right now, the thoughts you're having are valid and you need to be able to express them so we can move past them. So that's where the anonymity is so powerful. Because when our face and our name are involved with sharing the good news, like you said, everyone loves to share that stuff. But when our face and name are involved, we're not going to be raw and real. We're not going to say those things. And therefore, we're going to carry them around and we're going to feel down and we're going to feel heavy and we're going to start to feel depressed and our anxiety is going to pick up, all because we're so scared of just meeting ourselves where we are. So now we are free. You don't even have to worry about if anybody reads it because that's not the point. You don't want people to comment. They can't comment. They can't like it. So you can say whatever is on your mind right then and there. And you get that instant relief. Your shoulders drop. It's like taking a breath of fresh air. You've said it. You've done the thing. We all know what it feels like when you're just bursting to get something off your chest. This is that space.
And I like the reference to the journal because I'm thinking, with journals and diaries and stuff, especially like in homes with multiple kids and stuff, like one kid steals their sister's journal and they freak out, right? Because they don't want anybody to read that. It's so private. It's so personal. They don't want it attached to their name and outsourced into the world. But if you were to be a random stranger and say, can I read that journal? Sometimes people are kind of like more ready to share because that stranger knows nothing about your life, doesn't know your name, doesn't know where you live, or you just met at the bus and they just saw 2 pages of your journal and then you're getting off at different exits. So, that anonymity and the randomness of the situation really helps into you being able to share or release or anything else because you're like, I've never seen this person ever again anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then now throw in tech and the new age and the new world, and you've come out with modeling that through an app that is much easier accessible and, attached to your hand like your phone is all the time. So you always have the ability to do that. And I like that you don't have to carry paper and pen and everything around with you all day to journal either. So yes, it helps on that can be a pitch. That could be a pitch, that whole environmental benefit.
Yes. And that's just it. Journaling is beautiful. But by the time you require time and space to journal. Yes. So at the end of the day, when you sit down, you can't even remember really everything that you're wearing, that you've picked up throughout the day, that you've kind of, honed in on. When you're doing it in the moment, you let it go. You say it and you let it go. Someone pisses you off. You say it, you let it go. You're looking at your boss and it's short and to the point, 100 characters. Right. We are like right here here right now. You could be looking at your boss in the face and sending a message about how much you can't stand them. You could be sitting next to your partner, questioning your relationship and like offloading it into the app while you look at them. And that's the point, is that it's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to not be happy in your relationship. It's okay to not love parenting. It's okay to feel like you're in a dead-end job sometimes. These are all things that we experience. And what this app has done is really brought humanity back to humans. So because we have no idea where you are, what you look like, how old you are, how much money you make, any concept of that whatsoever, we have users that are being raw and real. And the feedback from the early months really showed us that even though you can't interact, there's this sense of community that's building, because if people are real, we can relate to that. So someone says, they're questioning whatever, every life decision they've made at some point, whatever. I use that as an example. Someone else reads that and they think, wow, I'm not alone. I thought I was the only person that did this. Or someone spends every single day stalking their ex on social media and they finally say it out loud. They admit it in the app. Someone else says, oh, okay, I thought I was the only one that couldn't get past it. I thought there was something wrong with me. So it's fascinating in this environment where we actually have no connection. We are building more connection than we typically see in social media, because it is so guarded, so procured, so controlled. And so people are actually admitting to these raw truths, and it's beautiful for other people to be able to read and share. So you can read the last 100 entries in every space before they're gone forever. But you can, again, not like or comment. So you can just read. And there's this general underlying theme of loneliness in every space. And I think that that is something we are all struggling with, that no one really wants to admit, because we're not living truly, authentically for connection. We're living for the image of what it looks like. And so this space is just so real and so beautiful. And sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes it's light and funny. Sometimes it's talking about a crush that you're watching in the moment. Sometimes it's, confessing a dark fear. But these are all the things that make us human. And these are all the things that make us relatable. And I love seeing that from the users.
And going to how you explained the app briefly there, and how the models move and everything else, you have featured topics, right, on the app. So, you have modern masculinity, work wars, dating dilemmas, mommy meltdowns, several. So in each case, the shared theme is often, hidden emotion or unspoken truth. What patterns have you noticed in what people share when they feel truly anonymous versus, obviously, the traditional model of, on Twitter, like you said, or because yours is very similar to Twitter. So or X today. I want to use that.
Well, it's like,
what do you see?
It's like Twitter and X and Reddit had a baby, if you will. It's short and to the point, but it's anonymous, but also that there's no feedback. So it's different in that sense. But there are 6 spaces that exist: moms, dads, not just for moms and dads, anyone with a mom and dad, talking about their relationship with their parents as adults. That can be very triggering, coping with your parents. There is a work space, so anything work related. Love, we're talking dating, marriage, being single, whatever it may be, having a crush on someone. A brag area, that is for the good news, the stuff that we wouldn't say out loud. Like maybe you got a new pair of jeans and you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I look good today. You wouldn't necessarily go around telling people that, but in brag, you can own that. You can celebrate your sobriety, your fitness goals. Maybe you won $5 on a scratch ticket. Maybe you kept your cool when you typically would have lost it, whatever it may be. That's for owning the good stuff. And then hands down, the most popular space is vent, which is for everyday occurrences, the things that come up, just the trials and tribulations of life, the high emotions. That is hands down the busiest one. But there is nothing in life that happens that wouldn't fit in one of those spaces. If anything, it might overlap. So that kind of sets the tone for the space, but even still, you don't know the conversation that will unfold within it. Every day it's different. And it's interesting because, well, you can't comment. Some people will kind of piggyback off other people's So someone will post something and then the next post you can see they're like, oh, well, I did this too. So it's almost like a connection without making that direct connection. So if you don't want that feedback, you don't want to be dealing with the comments and coming back to it, you don't have to. But it's there to read if you want to, totally optional. So in every space, I'd say the moms and the dads come with the stereotypical challenges that we see. Moms feeling unseen, undervalued, feeling like they're stretched too thin, feeling like they're failing, feeling like maybe they bit off more than they can chew, maybe regretting taking on some of these decisions, missing their career, whatever it may be, a lack of sleep, lack of support. For dads, fundamentally, we see a lot of feeling like being honest about how after a long day at work, they don't want to be around their kids. They don't have the capacity to be around their kids, and they feel like a bad dad for saying that. Dads talking about how they can't wait to be dads, but they're worried that they never will be. Dads talking about the financial pressure, feeling like they have to support the home, feeling like their voice doesn't matter, feeling like they don't have a right to complain next to their wife, next to their kids. Their needs come last. In work, we all have had terrible colleagues and bosses that have been very triggering to us, people that we can't trust, people that annoy us. So that's pretty straightforward. Some funny stuff comes up in there. The office theft, maybe you steal a couple notebooks here and there, some printer paper, that comes up. Admissions, finally being able to say that. Yes, you did indeed steal that. And then in the love, we see all sorts of things. Crushes, confessions, fetishes. Even yesterday, someone was saying they're not sure if they're straight. Someone else was saying that they want an open marriage. Whatever it is in that moment will come up. And then brag and vent, we kind of went over. So those are the general themes, what we typically see, but really anything goes. And often people will ask me, well, what about safety and security? Like, how do you make sure people don't just go off attacking people? We do have language filters in place. It's not perfect, but it is there, designed to keep people safe. So common swears, street slang, anything racist, homophobic, derogatory will be banned. You'll be encouraged to rewrite your message. And then anything involving self-harm. Also, there will be a safety banner to pop up that will indicate that you need to contact your local authorities for proper assistance, as Arrowed is not the venue to assist in crisis intervention, but there is a safeguard that comes up to push you to the right people.
I love that you do that. I don't know too many spaces right now that do. They let you post, I'm going to jump off the ledge, and they'll let you post that, and they'll let you share that, and they'll let you film yourself doing it and share it for content until it becomes kind of a big public issue. And they're like, okay, we have to take it off because, it's not cool anymore, but they don't do it up front. And you're actually doing that and guiding people to the right spaces. That's a lot of care for a space that is meant. Yeah, because when you first hear about this, you don't think about it that way. You think about the anonymity and just nobody knows anybody, nobody cares about anybody because they don't know anybody there, right? Like people automatically associate care with knowing or community or some kind of interactive capacity. But when they come to your space, they kind of think, oh, this is so cold, but it's not. Like, look at the amount of care that you've placed into guiding people to the right spaces and also toning the messages. Like you said, I was waiting for you. I was going to actually ask you this, but you beat me to it. The whole concept that you don't let the racism and the homophobic language and everything else come out is also really powerful, because on the one hand, people want to be free and say whatever they want to say. But on the other hand, this is kind of a space where I don't call it limiting, but I say it makes you think about what you were going to say and why it's not right maybe to vent in that way. Like even venting has its limits, right? So then when you tell them restructure your sentence, you're actually telling them that you may want to think about how you're positioning your venting, because it shouldn't be towards the person because of their race, but it could be restructured in a certain way that, I don't like my boss, not because, I don't know, they're whatever race they are, because they're black, but I don't like my boss because my boss today did this to me, right? Because it becomes a different context than building on racism. So I really, really like that. And with that, I want to get into a little deeper question, because I think just like the purpose of your app, people look to tear you down, right? People look for issues, for problems, for, how does this look wrong and stuff. So I want to give you this opportunity to kind of explain how you've worked through all of this and how air out isn't this negative space that people will start thinking about, because these are things people will come up with. While being anonymous can empower people to freely speak and say what they want and not have the accountability context or all of that, people say, well, without having all of that, how do you have the communal repair? How do you have this kind of connection, so to speak? Because the whole point about a free voice is also garnering the responsibility of preserving social harmony and inclusion. So how does air out play into maintaining that ethics, so to speak, as opposed to creating extremism in the vent, when it becomes more than just that I drop my coffee, walking out of Starbucks and I'm venting. That's fine, but then it may get deeper than that, and I'm sure you've seen instances of that.
I actually haven't. I actually find the people to be shockingly positive and well written. And I have heard from people about being censored, even with swears. Why can't I say this while I'm angry? Well, because, or is you questioning, can I really say what I want then if you're putting these language filters in place? And I said, yes, the meaning of what you're trying to express is always welcome, but you can do it in a way that's not hurtful or offensive. And so initially I was met with quite a bit of feedback at launch, but a few months in, users started saying, I actually really appreciate that because it's making me second guess about how I speak. It's making me choose my words more carefully. It's making me think about how I present things. So there is almost like a pause there, which I think is beneficial. But there is a workaround. Of course, people can add symbols into the words so that the swear comes through, but it's not written out as is. People are clever like that. But overall, I have not seen a lot of hate. In general, if anything, it's self-hate, which is sad, but that's why this exists, because we can all relate to that. We've all been there. We're our biggest critics. We cut ourselves down every chance we can. But to attack one another, I really have not seen that. And I think because you have a voice, you are able to express yourself. And what most people are dealing with is not a hatred towards other people. It's a dissatisfaction and a sadness within themselves. And so when you open up the space to say, hey, what's actually going on? It's not an attack. It's more of a confession. It's more honesty. And so I have to say that really has come through more than anything. I really haven't seen racist or derogatory language used, which is really positive. It is people expressing what's going on with them. And when it comes to building a community isn't given because you're in proximity. Just because you and I and 5 other people in a room doesn't make us community. What makes us care about each other is the fact that we can relate to each other, that there's relativity there's common ground. So you can feel more connected and bonded with someone that you've never met and you never will meet because of the things that they're willing to say than you would in a room full of people in front of you. So it's not about making connections per se. It's about having that moment of, oh, I'm human and there's someone else somewhere in the world that's human too. And that makes me feel better.
And that makes me feel better becomes the broader ecosystem of mental wellness in this case, or, community healing in the sense of taking the word community outside of the traditional box of our community is our 5 neighbors who share dinners together, because we may actually do that and not care about each other. So, what is community really is the question. And so how do you see Air Out play in an individual's life in the sense of its longevity and its ability to support the person's mental wellness or mental health? Because, I download the app, I say I vent or I brag, and I leave. And I guess the dopamine of coming back is it did something to me. I felt better afterwards. I vented and I was like, ooh, I'm so much calmer. My shoulders are relaxed. I feel better. This was good. This helped. It was better than taking a shot. It was better than, having road rage. I'm going to start using this again, right? Have you seen people, or I guess it's anonymous, so you wouldn't know, but that's my question. How does the mental wellness of people, is that what it is? Like by me continuously understanding that using this app for that release is giving me that release and it's making me happier?
Yeah, so no one can be forced to use this app. If you want an avenue like Air Out, it's because you are already on a path of inner healing, of self-awareness, of trying to feel and be better overall in your life. So it is a tool. I say a tool in your toolbox. Sometimes maybe you'll use it 10 times a day. Maybe you won't use it for a few days, whatever it is, but it's there as an avenue to support you when you need to say the things that pop up. And people will say, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to say. And, I'm so used to just keeping it all inside. Well, that is where we need to start opening up. I tell people, I'm like, start with something small, something that doesn't mean anything. And you'll be surprised that the floodgates will open. And before you know it, you're in this space and that space and this space, until everything feels calm and quiet and there's nothing else rattling around in your brain and there's none of that intense energy sitting in your body because you've given it a place to go. Almost like sorting items coming down a conveyor belt. You can't just keep stacking them in a huge pile. It's going to overflow. It's going to feel terrible, or messy clothes in a closet. What we're doing is we're sorting through our thoughts one by one. We're not telling ourselves that we're good or bad for having this thought, or we should be embarrassed or shameful. None of that matters here. All we're doing is taking the thought and moving it somewhere else so that we don't have to carry it around. So if we're doing that throughout our days and we're letting off that little bit of steam and we're not carrying it around, we're putting it somewhere else. Imagine how you're going to show up differently for your family and your colleagues and yourself after a long day versus bottling everything up, keeping it inside until you have an explosive moment, because we cannot keep this all inside. And you'll hear experts say all the time, the opposite of depression is expression. We have to just let it out. We have to green light it without the judgment and the guilt and the shame about the quality of our thoughts. So I always say the quality of your thoughts is not an indication of the quality of person you are. They are two completely separate entities. You are an amazing person with human thoughts triggered by your emotional state. That's what happens when you get into a higher elevated emotional state. Your quality of thoughts change. It's natural. But instead of feeling like we're bad for that, now we have somewhere to put it. And it's exactly that. So you're allowing that energy to run through you. You're putting it somewhere else, and you're going to feel that relief physically and mentally. And that ideally is what makes you come back. And then we're talking about people of all ages and all walks of life. I can tell by the way people write that there are a number of young people on there, young teenagers, high school age, maybe, by their writing style, and they will just go on a tangent. You can see 10, 12 posts in a row. And at the end, they'll say, okay, I feel better now. Thanks. Even though they're saying thanks to no one, they're saying thanks to themselves because they've allowed themselves just to fire through whatever's on their mind. So whether it's, a complex and challenging time like teenagehood, or it's going through careers and families and different chapters in life, when we just let ourselves roll with it, that's where we find the peace, and we can actually sort through what's true or not. Because I don't know if you've ever experienced this, that sometimes you have to say something out loud or type it out, write it out to know if it is actually true. Like to know if it actually sits with you. If you feel like a terrible father and you're carrying this around, my kids would be better without me. I can't show up for them. My wife hates me. I'm just a disappointment. But once you actually say it, you can go, you know what? I actually don't think that's true at all. I just needed to say it. And that's where we get this freedom now, which is so refreshing because you don't have to worry about what it is. You could just say it and try it on, so to speak.
Okay. Now, the essence of the app, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you can say, no, I did it all for the money. But it to me, it sounds like it comes from compassion, right? I mean, you are there thinking, not only I need some way to, release tension or something, but because generally, the development of app ideas come from our own experiences. You could be, I don't know, in the supermarket, buying your groceries and think, oh, if there just was this, and then you're like, well, I could do it, right? So those are generally the ways they come. Now, in your case, it could be very personal, but it could also be, if only people had a way, and then you started thinking about that and it grew. So it kind of grows out of compassion. Now, from compassion, you designed the app from development and a lot of, that whole period of the stress of developing and putting it on the app store and all of that stuff. You get to, which is a very stressful period for people who've never done these. But we love you, Apple. Thank you. From all of that, you get to a place that now the app rolls out. And from the time it rolls out, there's a lot of little, tweaks you make. And I think some of those are, addressing the ethical risks. Some of those are addressing, how to keep people's anonymous guarantees, so to speak, and things like that. So what has been that roller coaster like for you in terms of how you're addressing your users? How are you really connecting with your users? I don't care about the anonymous aspect, but I really do care about what you're doing from how you're seeing yourself grow with Air Out in your compassion.
So first of all, this has absolutely nothing to do with money. I have put far more money into this app than I anticipate we will ever get back. There's a ton of maintenance that goes on with it and upgrades that go on with it, in addition to the initial massive investment. From day one, this has been a passion project. This feels very much like my life's work, but work that doesn't have money, but still that is my purpose. It came to me, like I said, unannounced. I did not anticipate this at all. I didn't sit around with pen and paper thinking, what can I do? I should make an app. Never once in my life did I think that I would be here as an app developer. My path was always in broadcasting, television. I know absolutely nothing about tech. So to make this app, it was very challenging. There were many hiccups along the way, and I wanted to quit 100 times over and over. I would be crying and frustrating, the time, the money. Again, I have 3 little kids. This app is built, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Take this call. The language the tech developers are using is so far beyond my scope of knowledge that I just felt completely lost in the process. I thought it was a mistake 100 times over, but I just kept coming back to that dream and these intuitive hits along the way that no, this needs to be brought to life. So I've never felt like Air Out is mine per se. I felt like I've been a shepherd to it. It was offered and said, will you take this and bring this to life? And I took the assignment, so to speak. And now at this point, now that we're up on the Apple Store and Google Play, which, yes, was a huge undertaking. Talk about imposter syndrome. I can tell you a funny story about that when I actually had a phone call with Apple, which I'll never forget for the rest of my life. But so to get to this point has been monumental. And it's really just about making people feel better. I wanted a place to feel heard. I want other people to feel heard. I want a place to say the things that I want to say when I'm angry and not have anyone take it personally. And I want other people to be able to say those things without other people taking it personally. We don't have to hurt the people around us just because we are maybe a little hot-headed. We're fired up. We want to say stuff. It's not about the people around us. It's not about the situations. We just got to blow off that steam. And now we have a place where we can put a lot of it. And that's really the driving force. So now I feel like a spectator, very much like you, honestly, just watching the app. I don't know how and when and where it's going to grow. It's very organic. It's very grassroots. We've only been up and running for a few months now. But really, I run the social accounts and I post things about my life that I know other people can relate to, because that's what this is about. And if I'm having a tough moment, you're going to have a tough moment too, because there's nothing exceptional about me. We're all in this together. And so really it is a passion project to help people feel better. It started primarily for mothers to feel heard, and now it has just really evolved. I love our younger users so much, and I'm so happy to see teenagers being able to have an anonymous safe space like this. So I just hope anybody and everybody that is on kind of a inner healing, a wellness journey, to try it and see how they feel and if it fits into their life.
Another tangent. You know how you said you can tell by the words and the way they write, they're kind of in high school or their age group. I can tell by the way you speak, your passion, and some of the words you use that you're very spiritual. And you feel this was a spiritual calling to share with community. And community, again, not being your 5 physical neighbors and your postal code, but being the world who you can support in whatever way you can. And this was your calling. It came to you during sleep and you woke up, and it could very well be a prophetic moment for you that, you know, this came from, you know, the higher consciousness, God, whatever term you use, but essentially, you know, it was that connective thing. And I really appreciate how you know, you're not looking at this from a financial model or an ROI model or any of those things, because I've developed this concept of TBI. You know, it's used often, and it means transformation by investment over return on investment. And the goal with TBI is really doing what you're doing. When you went into this app, you know, you have your children's expenses. I mean, you could be thinking about college and tuition and all this other stuff. And yet the calling tells you this money was purposed to this, and this is what it's for. And this, you need to do this for the community. And so you went and you did this. And this is a TBI moment in you, because the ROI wouldn't have added up. If you spoke with a financial consultant and said, you know, let's do the math here and everything else, chances are they may say, risky, you know, it's a high risk situation. I mean, you could just buy Bitcoin. It'll be the same kind of risk return, right? And it would have probably done a lot better. But so the ROI wasn't there, but the TBI was there, you know, the transformational effect that you're bringing to the tables there. Run me a little bit through that spirituality, and don't be shy, because I find a lot of people shy away and they stick to the secular, because in society today, you know, it's you know, having these spiritual moments, these connective moments, these ways that even we may not understand, is something taboo to speak about, more than any fetish or any sexual desire or anything else, because those have become norms. You know, it's okay to go out to dinner and speak with people and throw out whatever you want to throw out in that way, but God forbid you speak about your spirituality.
Yes, absolutely true. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It is one of the conversations that make people the most uncomfortable, and I am part of that. So I've always considered myself very spiritual, very intuitive, and that has been a path that I have followed for years. But it was up until just a few years ago. It was actually through one of my children. I have twins and then another one, and my son, for the boy-girl twins, he was like maybe 2 years old, and he started talking about God and Jesus in this way that I had never known. I was not raised religious. I was not exposed to religion. If anything, I was quite judgmental about it, because we judge the things we don't know because it makes us uncomfortable. And so it was really challenging for me. And I thought, why and how does he speak like this if he's never been exposed to this? They never went to daycare. They're with me all the time. So I'm like, where is this coming from? And because I am quite spiritual and intuitive, I absolutely believe in past lives and past experiences and connection to the other side. So I took it quite seriously, and I was like, wow, interesting. And then I was driving by this huge church one day, and it was like someone took the steering wheel and just turned me into the parking lot. And I went in there just to like feel the space, because I'd never really been in a church. And then eventually I signed up for like this intro course. I started to get to know a few people there. And then I said the word God in my vocabulary for the first time. And it was cringy. It made me really uncomfortable, because I would much rather say source, creator, the other side, whatever it may be. But his exposure to me, with his knowledge, took me down a path I had no idea was going to exist. And so I started speaking with God. to God in ways that I never thought I would. And I would say that to my husband, and he was raised in a very similar way, and he would cringe at the way too, and he couldn't say God. And so it's really just in recent years that I've become comfortable saying that and using that terminology and that connection, really giving the credit where it is due. And it's all thanks to his kind of introduction to me, leading me down that path. So do I feel air out was God-given? 110%. I don't know what the big picture is in life. I don't know what the end result is for the app, but I absolutely believe that it was a mission put upon me, my soul's journey to unfold in this lifetime. And it's almost like some people write a book, and they have it on their shelf. Well, at the end of my life, I can say, well, I made this app for whatever chapter, for whatever period, however its longevity is, but it was there. I feel when people needed it. I believe we are in an energetic shift where we are turning away from that extreme external validation. People are craving more silence. They're craving more quiet. We're seeing people coming back to homemaking, a revival of the 90s simplicity. People want that again. And with that comes this realness. And so it is revolutionary in the fact that it's asking people to think in a way that they're not used to thinking anymore. Because people would challenge me, well, why would I write anything in there if no one can respond to it? Well, that's the whole point. You're still looking from the outside in. So when more and more people start coming home to themselves, working from the inside out and expressing because they need to from the inside without any care for the outside, which I feel is what we're coming back to. So I think it's a really interesting time to have an app like this be launched and available for people as we do kind of crave more of ourselves and more of that simplicity.
This was the best 3 minutes that I spent with you, because this right here, it was honest, it was raw, it was the real air out. This is air out for me. It's the passion, the connection to God, the purpose, because ultimately I believe in that cosmic purpose of every cell within our body. And when we align to that cosmic purpose, we can be fruitful in a sense. A tree, seed, water, grows, apples hang, they fall to the ground. Some pick the apple and eat it, some eat it off the ground. And that's the purpose. It creates this, value in itself by its offering, and each of us have that value of offering. And part of that value may be bringing the next generation into this world and raising them in a way that they become purposeful and productive and valuable to the future state that they're in. Part of it is giving birth to things like air out, because it's a different kind of birth giving. It's a different kind of purpose alignment, right? And when you explain it in the way you do, the app becomes a lot more an undertaking and a dutiful commitment on a communal level for people who do understand what you just said, and for people who are even skeptical but want to align, want to feel, want to commit, want to come together. And really, when I put Compassiviste together, it tugs on that purpose and on that. The word itself is compassion and activist put together, and not in the activist that's out in the streets with the placard and stuff, but that activist, exactly what you're doing as activist. And I put the E at the end. You're from Canada. Maybe you're bilingual, maybe you're not, but the E in French and in many languages, it's got that feminism attached to it. So every time we say Compassiviste, we remember we're feminist by nature. And that feminist by nature is that capital N nature, the God that is nurturing and that brings the purpose and that brings the value and gives birth to that purpose. So I asked you that question completely off topic because I think this is the value of what you're doing, bringing the purpose you understand yourself to be valued to, and the mission that you've been given, and how importantly we take that vision that came to you and we take the gift and the blessing that comes through you and share that communally. And that's where the value of community and your work comes to play. Completely off topic, but to me, that's the power of what you're doing. Last question for you, and it won't be as intense. And thank you for sharing, by the way, because a lot of people, may have wanted to skip that question, but I like the courage. I like that you're so comfortable with your faith right now that you are willing to, stand on that hill and say it. So, I applaud that. Now, imagine you are the most powerful person on earth, okay? And not in dictatorship or anything like that, but like moral influence. Okay, you are very influential morally, and you want to support. What is the first action you take to ignite a global shift toward planetary harmony?
Education on thought process, understanding where our thoughts come from, why they happen, and our detachment from them. I'm studying A Course in Miracles right now, which is an incredible course, and it's all about separation from thought and understanding that you create this reality. You are the one that's writing these stories. And I know you're going to disagree with that right away. A lot of people listening will say, no, that's not true. Well, this person did do this and they did do this. It's this deeper, bigger understanding of how our brains work, and that there is so much love beneath what we create. And when we start to understand that just because we have our thoughts doesn't make them real, doesn't make them true, there's so much freedom. And how can we think about this differently? How can we approach something differently to get back to love? And once people start to separate from their thoughts, we allow this space. We allow this space for peace. We allow a space for God. We allow space for greater understanding to come in, where we aren't so quick to judge and fight and attack and think that we are always having to be on guard, that people are always doing things to us, and that we're hard done by and we're victims of our circumstances. And that if everybody could have an education in this thought separation, the entire planet would change. Kids need to be taught this. Teenagers need to be taught this. Young adults everybody needs to understand where their true nature is versus where their thought projection is, and what we can do in the space in between. Because there would be a lot less fighting, a lot less war, a lot less hostility and anger, and we would soften and be connecting and loving and kind when we can get out of these hostile mindsets that so many of us find ourselves in naturally. I mean, it's just a part of this hustle and bustle life and this constant judgment. We're always under scrutiny. We're always being watched. It's very natural to feel this way, that everyone's always kind of coming at us, when it's just not true. And so if I was the most powerful person in the world, everyone would have an education and understanding in that awareness and that process, because it would do absolute wonders to change every single person's life.
I love that answer. I'm just taking it in. That's a, you're so aligned to what we're doing at Compassiviste, because we have one of our tentacles. We're an octopus design, and one of our tentacles is called Compassiviste Education, and we have that tentacle because we believe in exactly the education that you just explained, but we're actually rolling it out as a program. So we're rolling it out so that people can begin to do exactly what you're suggesting, and then some, and then, overcome, and then what you should be doing beyond that to kind of lead to harmony. And the fact that you state that is beautiful to hear, because there's a lot of awakening in the world, and I feel like we are in this moment of collective global awakening, where I speak with people all the way from the north end in Canada to the ends of Australia, and people will say, "Oh, let me share something with you," and then they share their screen, and then all of a sudden they have a model that right here we're implementing at Compassiviste, and say, "Hold on, let me share my screen," and then I share. They're like, "When did you come up with this?" And I say, "When did you come up with this?" Right, and then like. It's beautiful to see it happening in such parallels with so many people, because I think over the next 10 years and stuff, we're going to see a huge shift, and we're going to see a huge liberation from a lot of the oppression of thought. We're in the stage we're in. And what you just answered you would do as the most powerful person is essentially, freeing people from that oppression that they're in, that forces them to be in that state of education or understanding or knowledge. So beautifully said. Courtney Stanfield, thank you so much for joining us on Compassiviste Dialogues. You've given us a fresh angle on expression, connection, wellness, and using the digital age. And it reminds us that being heard without being judged is a key step toward compassion, belonging, harmony, community. It's not always in the traditional forms that we're taught that the answers reside. That combination of innovation, heart, mission, social care, and the essence of it tied to a spiritual connection is exactly why you are a natural compassivist. And I'm very proud and happy to have met you and have you on the show.
Yes.
and be able to connect with you in this way. And to our audience, please subscribe to Compassiviste Dialogues so I can bring people like Courtney to you. And I can tell you when I've spoken with Courtney, but we never had this conversation, and it happened right here, right now, because I sensed it, and I had to ask. When I sense something about someone, I have to ask, and here we are. And you guys get to hear this now. You guys get to understand where Air Out came from. You guys get to feel all of that raw emotion and essence behind it. And now you can use it purposefully, knowing why it was designed, why it was made, why it exists. And I want you to explore the links for Air Out. Obviously, use it, download it, Air Out app. So AIROUTAPP.com. And it's on the App Store and the Google Play Store, so you can find it there as well. Look up Courtney and Compassiviste as well while you're doing that, and follow us on our social media, and we will be sharing a lot more about the app soon as well. We're here to help change the world together. I'm Ali Horiat.